Hey everyone, and welcome to today's Explainer. I am incredibly excited to dive into this one with you. If you work in process automation, you already know that writing the back-end sequential logic, well, that's really only half the battle. The real magic happens when we take that complex, hidden automation code and translate it into highly intuitive, interactive dashboards for the operators. So today, we're going to master exactly how to do that within Semantic Pcs7. We're looking at how to take raw engineering data and build a seamless pane of glass for the people who are actually running the plant, day in and day out.
And that brings us right to the core problem we're solving today. How exactly do you turn that hidden automation code into an interactive operator dashboard? Because let's face it, for an operator, a sequence without a visualization is essentially a blind sequence. They can't see the individual steps, they can't anticipate where bottlenecks might happen, and they certainly can't intervene effectively if something goes wrong. Giving operators absolute visibility into these sequences isn't just, a nice-to-have feature, it is absolutely mission-critical for plant efficiency and safety.
To get us there, we'll be hitting 5 main stops. First, the operator's challenge. Then, foundation architecture. After that, the visualization toolbox, followed by the configuration workflow, and finally, we'll look at the ultimate operator experience.
All right, let's kick things off with Section 1, the Operator's Challenge, and the quest for visibility in complex sequences.
Giving operators true visibility isn't just a matter of flipping a single switch, it's really more of a 3-part target. First up, you've got to nail system preparation. That means setting up your engineering station, or ES, correctly so it's actually ready to visualize those sequential control systems. Second is toolbox mastery. You need to know every single tool at your disposal for visualizing a sequential function chart, or SFC. And third, all of this prep has to culminate in seamless runtime operation. Hit all 3 of these targets, and boom, you've completely empowered your operator.
Moving right along to Section 2, Foundation, because we really have to map out the architecture before we jump into the application.
Think of this part as the transition from a paper blueprint to a physical building. We start with the SFC type. The type is purely a library concept, right? It's a master function block sitting in a chart folder that holds your core logic. It processes independently, but at the end of the day, it's just a template. Then we have the SFC instance. Instantiation happens when you take that library concept and pour the concrete, meaning you place it into a specific continuous function chart, or CFC. The instance is the actual, executable logic that's wired up with specific block parameters from your basic automation system.
Let's break this down real quick to solidify this architectural difference, because visualizing a type is a very different ballgame than visualizing an instance. By definition, your type is the master template, while the instance is the executable iteration. Location-wise, the type just hangs out in the library, but your instance lives in a specific CFC plan. Their interfaces are totally different too. The type has a dedicated standard interface, whereas the instance has an external view that's been expanded with highly specific process parameters. And lastly, if you're using Semantic Batch, the type represents an equipment phase, but the instance is what actually receives the measure points upon initiation in the CFC.
Okay, Part 3, the visualization toolbox. This is where we officially transition from the engineering station over to the operator system.
You actually have a whole spectrum of visualization tools at your fingertips here. I like to look at them through the lens of progressive disclosure, so starting from a super minimal screen footprint and scaling all the way up to massive plant-wide control. First, you've got native icons, giving operators a quick status right at a glance. Stepping it up, we have the SFC control for a highly detailed single sequence view. Then, going macro, the multi-chart control gives you that bird's-eye overview of multiple sequences all at once. And finally, custom triggers, which let you build highly specific, tailored interactions.
Deploying native indicators is incredibly straightforward. When you just want a minimal footprint, you use block icons. You've got options like Variant 1 for a basic display, or Variant 2, which is your default advanced process library presentation. As the engineer, all you really need to know is that these variants are conveniently managed right in the core process image file, which is designated as your PDL file.
Now, this really illustrates the contrast when we start moving into advanced dashboards. Think of the Pcs7 SFC control as your magnifying glass. It gives you a focused, single-sequence view triggered by just clicking a button. But the multi-chart control, that operates on a totally different scale. It's your watchtower. You roll out the multi-chart when operators need a macro view of the entire plant, overseeing multiple sequencers simultaneously. Plus, they can directly command those SFCs using embedded buttons without ever having to open up a separate faceplate. The final tool in our box is custom triggers. Sometimes the standard interfaces just aren't going to cut it, and you need to capture a very specific operator intent. We do this by using dynamic wizards to build distinct logic pads. For instance, if an operator needs a global view to find any SFC in the entire project, you just run a wizard to configure an SFC browser. But if they need dedicated access to just one very specific sequence, you want a totally different wizard to create a custom button that launches exactly that faceplate. It's all about routing their intents straight to the right destination without any clicking around.
Which brings us to Section 4, Configuration Workflow. Let's talk about how we actually wire this visualization up.
Let's look at the exact steps an engineer takes to generate those native assets and ship them right across the bridge from the ES to the OS. First, you pull up the SFC shortcut menu on your engineering station and select your preferred block icon variant. Second, when you go to compile the OS, you absolutely must make sure that SFC visualization checkbox is ticked. If you do that, step 3 happens basically by magic. The system automatically transfers the required tags, messages, and your selected block icons, generating them right onto the corresponding process picture based on your plant hierarchy. It is beautifully automated.
Now let's see how things change when we build out that multi-chart overview. This one is a bit more of a manual UI process. Step 1, you pull an OCX control straight from your Smart Objects palette and drag it right into your process picture in the graphics designer. Step 2, a dialog pops up, and you simply select the Pcs7 SFC multi-chart control from the list. Finally, Step 3, you map the logic. You double-click the control, hit Add SFC, and simply assign the specific sequences you want populated in that chart. Pretty easy, right?
Now, when it comes to wiring up those custom interactions, the dynamic wizards make it so incredibly elegant. You can actually map entirely different targets to the exact same visual asset. For example, on one single SFC graphic button, you can configure the left-click action to open up a sequence tied to a specific tank. But you can configure the right-click action on that exact same button to open the system-wide SFC browser. Talk about maximizing your screen real estate while still giving operators completely intuitive paths to get what they need.
And finally, Section 5, the operator experience. This is the synthesis in runtime.
This ecosystem topology is where everything we've talked about pulls together into one harmonious dashboard. You've got native integration, giving you immediate status updates via block icons sitting right next to the reactor tanks. Pair that with macro visibility, where the multi-chart control is providing an overview of all the reactor sequences at a glance. And to top it off, custom access is baked right in through configured buttons that grant instant right-click access to the global browser. It's just a completely harmonized environment.
Now, as an engineer, we do need a quick runtime reality check regarding the balance of effort here. Think of blocky icons as your out-of-the-box freebies. Just compiling the OS makes them available. No extra graphic design needed whatsoever. Conversely, advanced tools like your multi-charts, SFC browsers, and custom buttons, those require configuration. They definitely aren't default, and they are going to demand your explicit configuration effort inside the graphics designer to actually work in runtime.
And that leads us perfectly into our final thought for today's explainer. True mastery in PCS7 sequential visualization isn't just knowing how to use every single tool in the box, it's knowing when the out-of-the-box default is enough and when the sheer complexity of a sequence demands that you invest the extra time to build a custom macro-level dashboard. I really hope this framework helps you balance your engineering effort with the actual operational needs on your very next project. Keep building smart out there, and I will catch you on the next explainer.